Hi, I'm Heidi Penny. I'm a Pest Plant Officer for Waikato Regional Council. My role within the council as a Pest Plant Officer is to offer advice on particular weeds and make sure that the rules associated with those weeds are being enforced. Velvet leaf is a pest plant that is associated with crops. It's an agricultural weed. It's an annual plant, so it's a plant that once it's grown and produced seed, it dies, and that's the end of that plant. The big issue with velvet leaf that makes it a standout from all the other normal crop weeds is that it has a really hardy seed that can last 60 years or more in the soil. So that makes it particularly hard to eradicate. So we try to offer information on how to control it and manage it with an aim of eradication eventually. So it loves disturbed ground. So in a crop, as you can see in the maize crops, the ground is quite bare and it's been stirred up a little bit, and that's the kind of environment that velvet leaf really thrives in. You'll actually find that where you feed out silage, and you might get the odd bit of velvet leaf popping up in pasture, it's not necessarily as dense or competitive. We've seen maize crops where we have done control trials, and we've left maize to its own device, and then in the plot next door we've done control as far as pre-emergent and post-emergent spraying, and we've found that the maize is massively reduced in size and density, so that it lowers production very significantly. Because it's picked up on machinery and spread to other farms, it could have a massive impact on the industry. So in the Waikato, or all over New Zealand actually, food like crops is essential, especially with higher stocking rates. So an impact of velvet leaf on that industry could be massive. If they find velvet leaf, they should really report it to us. So they can either report it to MPI via their 0800 number, which is 0800 009966, and that will get them through to our National Velvet Leaf Coordinator, Sally Linton. So what we'll do, following a phone call from you, is we'll come and help identify it and confirm that it is or isn't velvet leaf, and then we try to work with the landowners to give suggestions on how they can manage it and still continue their farming practices without having a major impact on their crops. The way to prevent velvet leaf from coming onto your property is to treat your property as a border. So biosecurity at the farm gate, and this doesn't just apply with velvet leaf, it also applies for other weeds and other pests and diseases. So a landowner has a responsibility to know what's coming onto their farm and to know what's going off. So my suggestion is, if you've got gear and machinery coming onto your property to harvest, you could talk to the contractor about making sure that it's clean before it comes on. If you're buying silage onto your property, take the responsibility of having a look at that crop before you buy it. Go out if you can and have a walk around or have a look at the crop. Find out what sort of weeds are in it. We are available. You can contact us on 0800 Biosecurity, and it's a free service for us to come and have a look if you're not sure what a weed is, and we'll identify that for you and give you suggestions on whether there are rules around it. We can also talk to you about the risk areas, so where we know that velvet leaf is in the area and you're buying silage from those areas, then we can discuss whether you're in a high risk area of getting velvet leaf onto your property. As you can see, the leaves are quite large, so it's about the size of the palm of my hand. The thing that distinguishes velvet leaf from other plants, similar to apple of Peru and Paulownia, it's quite often mistaken with, is the velvety texture on the stem. So if you run your hand up and down the stem, it's got very fine hairs in it, and it gets its name from those velvety leaves. This plant has been sprayed with a herbicide. So it has started to yellow off a little bit. So in general, the leaves are sometimes a little bit darker green than this plant is. So Rusty's really useful in areas where we can't see it. I think he's an absolutely fantastic tool. Obviously, Rusty's nose is better than the human eye.
Hi, I'm John Taylor, and this is Rusty beside me. I've trained Rusty as a velvet leaf detector dog, been doing it for 6 years. I've been coming up to the Waikato now for just on 5 years, and from what I've been told, it's a really valuable tool, and it's helped the whole process in trying to eradicate this plant. The method that I've trained Rusty to do is he will find the plant, and he's trained to actually sit beside the plant and bark at me, and this was the initial training to get it up and going. But what I do now, I've changed my way, and I look at the behaviour of the dog. And a lot of times I don't ask for an indication, I just go by what the dog is doing, and I can tell by his behaviour that there is plants in the area. In the maize it's a wee bit more difficult. he'll go into the maize crop, find a velvet leaf plant, come back out and bark at me, and 90% of the time, if we can keep up with him, he'll get us back to that plant in the crop. At this stage now, the plants are very small. Everyone's getting on top of this, so we're getting very small plants. We're not getting those big plants that are as high as the maize crops, and this year we haven't found anything that big at all. Rusty's the only dog at this stage. There was another dog trained in Invercargill, but because of the work commitments of the handler, he couldn't do what I'm doing. I'm lucky. I'm retired, so I can put all my time into this. There's no one else, there's no handlers that have come forward. I'm quite happy to help people, but no one has come forward to actually take it up. You know, we've got a really good relationship and a good bond, and I just enjoy doing the work, and hopefully it's doing something. I would really like to see this plant eradicated, but it's going to take a long time. We've got a seed that has a 50-year longevity, so it's going to take a long time to actually get rid of it. But you know, I'm just happy to play my part, and hopefully, and I've seen a reduction in it now. We're getting a reduction in it, so that's the main thing. Yeah.